Penguins and researchers alike occasionally find themselves in a temporal quandary. Unlike most of the globe, Antarctica lacks a designated time zone. All lines of longitude converge at the South Pole, creating a perplexing situation when attempting to determine the precise time. You might wonder how scientists and researchers manage to keep track of time in this zoneless land. The answer is remarkably practical. They generally adhere to the time zone of their home country. However, with research stations from across the globe scattered along the Antarctic Peninsula, things can become rather chaotic. Imagine trying to coordinate with neighboring stations without inadvertently waking them up in the dead of night. It might seem improbable that life could flourish in a place where temperatures plummet to unimaginable lows, the sun's presence is fleeting, and winds threaten to sweep you away. Yet, as in so many corners of our planet, life has carved a niche for itself in Antarctica. Believe it or not, this frozen continent teems with activity. It's home to billions of krill, which in turn attract a multitude of seals and penguins, more than you could count in a lifetime. But don't let their cute and cuddly appearance deceive you. Penguins are the ultimate swimmers, possessing streamlined bodies that would evoke envy from Olympic medalists. They waddle ashore to breed and relax, but their true talents lie in pilfering pebbles from one another and forming mathematically precise huddles to conserve warmth. Antarctica also boasts the largest penguin species on Earth, the emperor penguin, Aptenodytes forsteri. These creatures may be flightless, but they are accomplished jumpers, with some capable of leaping up to 120 inches. And let's not overlook the seals, with their sleek, furry bodies and haunting songs. Protected by the Antarctic Treaty, these marine mammals thrive in the frigid waters of the Southern Ocean. But the true stars of the Antarctic show are the whales. During the Antarctic summer, these colossal creatures arrive in vast numbers to feast on the abundant krill. Imagine a banquet laid out on a colossal scale, a feast fit for the giants of the ancient seas. We're plunging into the depths, millions of years in the past, to witness a spectacle of marine life unlike anything seen today. Here, the waters teem with krill, countless shimmering crustaceans forming an immense living carpet. This isn't just a meal, it's an all-you-can-eat buffet for the colossal whales that once ruled these oceans. A veritable krilltopia, stretching as far as the eye can see, providing sustenance for the leviathans of the prehistoric world. Bygone era. Long ago, this plateau was connected to another lost continent, the Kerguelen Plateau, sometimes referred to as the Kerguelen microcontinent. Scientists theorize that this microcontinent once acted as a vital land bridge, a crucial link between India and Antarctica. To envision the nature of this lost world, let's turn our attention to a remote archipelago nestled in the southern reaches of the Indian Ocean. These islands, battered by relentless winds and icy seas, represent the last vestiges of that ancient landmass. Their climate is harsh, dominated by frigid temperatures, and sculpted by the inexorable advance of glaciers, owing to their proximity to Antarctica. However, in the distant past, the climate here would have been drastically different. Temperate, with abundant rainfall, a stark contrast to the frozen landscape of today. The flora and fauna that thrived in this lost continent would have mirrored those found in modern tropical regions. Picture a landscape reminiscent of New Zealand, teeming with unique life forms adapted to a lush, green environment. Our planet is in constant flux, a dynamic entity that never ceases to evolve. At some point in the far future, the continents will once again converge, coalescing into a single supercontinent. Perhaps, then, future generations of humans will contemplate a hypothetical cataclysm. What if our own continent were to fragment and scatter across the globe? Antarctica, a land of stark beauty and unforgiving conditions, offers few distractions beyond the realm of scientific inquiry. One might observe the native wildlife, such as the endearing penguins waddling across the ice, or the seals basking in the fleeting sunlight. The occasional whale might breach the surface of the frigid waters, a majestic reminder of the ocean's hidden depths. Antarctica stands as one of the largest landmasses on Earth, yet its only inhabitants are the dedicated scientists and researchers who journey from every corner of the globe to unlock its secrets. These scientists, driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge, have drilled deep into the seemingly impenetrable ice, seeking to decipher the secrets of ancient air and the mechanisms by which our atmosphere cleanses itself. Utilizing specialized drilling equipment, they bore a pristine cylindrical hole that plunges 450 feet beneath the surface. Some of this ice is remarkably old, dating back as far as 800,000 years. It serves as a valuable archive, providing insights into the climate conditions of the distant past. Think of it as examining the rings of a tree to determine its age, but with far greater complexity and depth of information. After this impressive feat of drilling, the scientists decided to conduct an experiment. They dropped chunks of ice down into the depths of the hole, curious to observe what might occur. To their astonishment, the ice's descent was accompanied by a series of strange and inexplicable sounds. The sounds evoked the sensation of being aboard a spaceship, hurtling through an asteroid field, as rocks collided and shattered around them. The pitch of the sounds shifted rapidly during the ice block's quick fall, beginning with high-frequency tones and culminating in a deep, resonant thud, reminiscent of a slow heartbeat. Intrigued and perplexed, the scientists repeated the experiment, dropping more ice into the hole. Each time, they encountered similar sounds, albeit with subtle variations. They were left to ponder the source of these mysterious noises, and more importantly, the underlying cause of their generation. What lay hidden in the depths below? Antarctica is also home to a surprising number of volcanoes, many of which lie concealed beneath the immense sheets of ice that blanket the continent. Scientists have identified 91 volcanoes and suspect that many more remain undiscovered, potentially making Antarctica the most volcanically active region on Earth. During routine scientific investigations, they stumbled upon numerous large cone-shaped formations buried deep beneath the surface. Some of these structures were located as far as 2 miles beneath the ice, with peaks towering over 3,000 feet and bases spanning dozens of miles. Yet, on the surface, the landscape remained as featureless and unremarkable as a blank sheet of paper. It's conceivable that the scientists inadvertently dropped their ice block into an actual volcano upon which they were standing, but this is highly improbable. While the presence of subsurface volcanoes was revealed by chance, it is unlikely that they would have established their research station directly atop an active volcano. Instead, they likely selected an area where the study of ancient climates was more accessible and less hazardous than other locations. These dedicated researchers collect ice samples and meticulously analyze them in their laboratories. The process is akin to discovering a prehistoric insect perfectly preserved in amber millions of years ago, when dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus rex, and Triceratops horridus, roamed the Earth. However, instead of tiny insects, the scientists examine ancient dust, air bubbles, sea salts, volcanic ash, and any other materials trapped within the ice that might yield clues about the past environment. By studying these components, they can reconstruct the climate conditions that prevailed during specific periods in Earth's history. These ice samples may provide evidence that Antarctica's western ice sheet underwent melting during periods of past global warming. Should this be confirmed, it would suggest a heightened risk of future melting events, potentially leading to significant sea level rise that would threaten coastal cities and low-lying island nations. However, scientists remain cautious, acknowledging that more research is needed to validate this hypothesis, despite the existing evidence. The analysis of ice samples is a time-consuming process, often requiring anywhere from a week to a year, depending on the nature of the discoveries. The scientists meticulously crush or melt the samples, layer by layer, much like examining the rings of a tree to discern its age and history. The deeper the layer, the further back in time they travel. As we journey deeper into the past, venturing back through millennia to analyze ancient air bubbles trapped within ice, the process becomes incredibly delicate. Imagine researchers, clad in protective gear, meticulously crushing these precious samples within a vacuum chamber. This crucial step prevents any modern air from contaminating the ancient atmosphere they are trying to unlock. The extracted air is carefully transferred into vials, ready for analysis by an array of sensitive instruments. But because these ice samples are so vulnerable, even the slightest contamination can compromise the results. Every measurement must occur within the pristine environment of a clean room. Scientists are completely covered in bodysuits, multiple layers of gloves, and are constantly ventilated to prevent any human interference. Even a seemingly insignificant fingerprint could ruin years of work. They meticulously study these samples, searching for subtle patterns that reveal changes in the atmosphere's composition and temperature over vast stretches of time. But what about simply dropping a chunk of ice down a deep hole? Surely that wouldn't be so problematic. The peculiar sound it makes is actually quite revealing. It's the same phenomenon that causes a car horn to sound different when the vehicle is moving compared to when it's stationary. This is known scientifically as the Doppler effect. It's a noticeable shift in the frequency of a wave relative to an observer who is moving relative to the wave source. The sound itself doesn't actually change its frequency. It's our perception of it that shifts. This effect applies to various types of waves, including water and light, but is most commonly associated with sound. So, when scientists drop that ice block into the seemingly bottomless hole, the sound waves travel downwards, then bounce back up through the narrow shaft. This acoustic reverberation is what created that strange pew-pew sound. And let's not forget, this particular ice block plummeted nearly 500 feet. Consider the scale of human ambition. Oil rigs drill boreholes into the Earth's oceanic crust that extend thousands of feet beneath the seabed. The Kola Super Deep borehole in Russia represents the most extreme example of this. It is the deepest hole ever created by humankind. Plunging more than 40,000 feet into the Earth, it took nearly 2 decades of relentless drilling to reach a depth of 7.5 miles. Yet incredibly, this still only represents half the distance to the Earth's mantle. In terms of the planet as a whole, this colossal undertaking is merely scratching the surface. This particular hole was not drilled in search of oil, nor was it located in the ocean. Drilling operations ceased in 1992 when engineers discovered that temperatures at that depth were a staggering 180 degrees higher than anticipated. The project was abandoned, and the hole remains a barren testament to human endeavor. But it stands as the closest we've ever come to piercing the Earth's hidden depths. Disturbingly, some workers at the Kola site reported hearing strange, disembodied voices emanating from the abyss below. Meanwhile, far away in Yemen lies another enigma. The Well of Barhout, situated in the eastern desert, closer to Alan than the capital of Es. This chasm has baffled experts and locals alike. Unlike the boreholes in Russia and Antarctica, this hole is not of human construction. Or is it? It has existed for countless years, and the local population avoids it assiduously, reluctant even to speak of it, believing it brings misfortune to those who venture near or utter its name. Legend claims it was created as a prison for malevolent spirits, a notion dismissed by many. The hole itself is approximately 100 feet wide and plunges to a depth of between 300 and 650 feet. Strange sounds are also said to rise from its depths. However, according to scientific investigation, the well has negligible ventilation and minimal oxygen, making it unlikely that any creature, human or otherwise, could survive within. Far beneath the waves, the Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench, the deepest point on Earth, yielded its own mysteries. In March 2016, researchers recorded a series of low-pitched groans and rumbles, followed by eerie screeches. These sounds were captured over several weeks using a specially designed titanium-encased microphone built to withstand the immense pressure at this depth, a crushing force 1,000 times greater than atmospheric pressure at sea level. The device had to be lowered painstakingly slowly. For 23 days, the microphone recorded a symphony of typical ocean sounds, the calls of passing whales, the distant hum of ships on the surface, and even the tremors of underwater earthquakes. Yet the origin of those initial unsettling sounds remained elusive. The researchers struggled to determine whether the noises emanating from the bottom of the Mariana Trench were of human or natural origin. They also sought to understand if these sounds were affecting marine life, particularly dolphins and whales that rely on echolocation for navigation and hunting. The mystery persists. Scientists estimate that the ocean is now 10 times louder than it was just half a century ago, due to technological advancements in shipping, submarines, and underwater exploration. Imagine a world where even the silent expanses of the ocean aren't truly silent. Sadly, our impact continues to grow, and with each passing year, the underwater world becomes a louder place. But let's turn our attention skyward to the ethereal dance of the northern lights. Did you know these shimmering curtains of light also produce sounds? These are not the booming sounds of thunder, but subtle crackles and pops, often unheard, yet present when the auroras blaze with maximum intensity. For years, scientists were baffled by these faint noises emanating from above. The source seemed impossibly distant, but using specialized microphones, they discovered something remarkable. The sounds originate just 230 feet above us. That's surprisingly low. The phenomenon is caused by electrical charges gaining power within specific regions of the auroras. Magnetic storms, the very engines that ignite the northern lights, disturb these electrical charges. As a result, tiny sparks are released into the atmosphere, creating the faint crackling and popping we sometimes hear. Many of us dream of venturing to the Arctic, witnessing polar bears roaming across the ice, or gazing in awe at the aurora borealis painting the night sky. But perhaps another destination calls to you: Antarctica. However, you likely won't find any tours flocking to Antarctica anytime soon. And here's why. Antarctica sits at the bottom of the globe, in the southern hemisphere, embracing the South Pole. The Southern Ocean encircles it, and a vast ice sheet covers the majority of the continent, rendering it one of the most isolated and frigid environments on Earth. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who has actually been to Antarctica? It is one of the least visited places on our planet. Only a fortunate few have witnessed its interior, a landscape dominated by glaciers and immense ice fields. And trust me, the wildlife and the stark, icy scenery are absolutely otherworldly. So, why can't we just pack our bags and head south? Well, the Antarctic environment is incredibly fragile and susceptible to damage. Furthermore, no native human populations call the continent home. A visit would essentially be akin to exploring an uninhabited island. Let's not forget that it's also one of the most expensive destinations on Earth to reach. However, despite its remoteness, Antarctica isn't entirely unguarded. An international agreement, the Antarctic Treaty, is in place. This treaty aims to prevent undesirable activities on the continent and prohibits certain forms of testing by member nations. The main reason we can't simply waltz into Antarctica is that it harbors a delicate ecosystem that demands protection. The treaty mandates that Antarctica be used solely for peaceful purposes, free from any human activity that could harm its environment. Scientists are still unraveling the secrets of the continent's unique ecosystem, and our presence, along with our machines, could disrupt the delicate balance that exists there. If you are still determined to visit Antarctica, obtaining permission is no simple task. For example, U.S. citizens must complete a special form and submit it to the Office of Ocean and Polar Affairs. Once there, strict guidelines must be followed to safeguard the environment, such as not disturbing any wildlife or collecting souvenirs like rocks, plants, or animals. Now, can you technically live in Antarctica? While no laws explicitly forbid permanent habitation, the environment is incredibly inhospitable and unsuitable for human life. Temperatures can plummet to 75 degrees Celsius and below, making survival nearly impossible without specialized equipment and extensive experience. Furthermore, the nearest landmass is over 1,000 miles away, effectively isolating any inhabitants from the rest of the world. Perhaps one day we'll have the opportunity to visit this unique and captivating continent. But until then, let's appreciate it from afar. Let's turn now to the story of how Antarctica was discovered. Unlike other lands that already had inhabitants, Antarctica never had a native population. Ancient Greek philosophers speculated about its existence, naming it Antarctos, meaning opposite the bear. The bears they referenced weren't polar bears, but the constellations of Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, visible only in the northern hemisphere. Thus, the term signified the land opposite the land of the bear. In the late 1700s and early 1800s, whaling and sealing voyages ventured further south when rounding Cape Horn at the tip of South America. Venturing further south into the icy expanse, as seasoned sailors knew, often brought the double-edged sword of fiercer winds, alongside the ever-present danger of colliding with icebergs, both large and small. These treacherous winds and seas held the potential to imperil any vessel and its crew. It was Captain James Cook who first dared to breach the Antarctic Circle, a feat he accomplished on January 17, 1773, in the frigid waters of the Ross Sea region. A year later, he pushed even further south. Though land eluded his sight, he approached within a mere 50 miles, spotting rocky deposits embedded within colossal icebergs, undeniable evidence of a landmass lurking further south. The widely recognized first sighting of the Antarctic continent occurred in January 1820 during a voyage commanded by Captain Fabian Gottlieb von Bellingshausen, leading 2 ships on a 2-year global expedition with the express purpose of discovering new territories. Bellingshausen's vessels hold the distinction of being the first to cross the Antarctic Circle since the pioneering voyage of Cook. However, the first undisputed landing on the icy shores of Antarctica wouldn't occur until much later, on January 24, 1895, at Cape Adare. This landing took place during a whaling expedition aboard the ship Antarctic, led by Henrik Bull. A small boat carrying 6, possibly 7 men, ventured ashore under unusually calm conditions. Now, picture this. Antarctica, a vast ice-covered land, is technically a desert. The sheer abundance of ice might conjure images of a winter wonderland, complete with spirited snowball fights and steaming mugs of hot cocoa. But when we think of deserts, our minds often wander to scenes of camels, cacti, and desperate searches for water. Antarctica presents a stark contrast. The challenge isn't finding water, it's finding anything not blanketed in ice. Astonishingly, the average rainfall here has barely exceeded 0.4 inches over the past 30 years. A mere scattering of droplets compared to what most regions experience. So, it's not the sand dunes or the scorching heat that define a desert, it's the profound lack of precipitation. But fear not, should you ever find yourself adrift in Antarctica, thirst won't be your primary concern. Just be sure to pack a sturdy jacket and a pair of warm mittens, because the frigid air can freeze you solid. Antarctica isn't merely one of the driest places on Earth, it also claims the titles of coldest, windiest, and highest continent. Talk about an overachiever. Down in Antarctica, this continent home. Despite the brutal conditions, Antarctica is accessible to tourists seeking adventure and researchers pursuing scientific breakthroughs. During the summer, around 5,000 people inhabit the continent, residing at research stations. But as winter's icy grip tightens, that number dwindles to a mere 1,000. Now, let's journey to another frigid realm. Siberia. Here, the biting winds feel like they're burning your skin, and the endless expanse of white snow can be blinding. This landscape shares a key characteristic with Antarctica: permafrost. Recently, a team of scientists ventured to a Siberian river. Using a specialized drilling rig, they extracted samples of the frozen soil. What they discovered within the ice sent shockwaves through the scientific community, living creatures. Back in the laboratory, these creatures were identified as microscopic, multi-celled organisms known as Deloid rotifers, Bdelloidea. These tiny beings resembled minuscule worms. Scientists were aware that rotifers could survive in frozen conditions for up to a decade. But the rotifers found in the Siberian ice were far, far older, approximately 24,000 years old. The truly astonishing part? After thawing, these ancient rotifers sprang back to life and began reproducing as if they had merely been asleep for a few hours, not millennia. Further analysis revealed that these organisms could potentially remain frozen for hundreds of thousands of years. These rotifers might have been alive during an age when humans hadn't even invented the wheel. And their resilience doesn't end there. Deloid rotifers are among the most radiation-resistant animals on Earth. They can thrive in environments devoid of oxygen and water. They can endure highly acidic conditions and survive extended periods without food or water. These are truly remarkable creatures, and they aren't alone in their longevity. Certain types of moss and some microorganisms also possess near-immortal qualities. Nematodes, also known as roundworms, represent some of the most adaptable worm species on the planet. Picture the Eiffel Tower, standing tall and proud. Now, imagine making it 10 times taller and burying it underground. At that extreme depth, Thousands of feet beneath the surface, scientists have discovered thriving nematode communities. In this subterranean world, sunlight is non-existent and air is scarce. Being closer to Earth's core, the temperature is far higher than in the hottest desert. The immense pressure from millions of tons of overlying soil is crushing. Yet despite all these challenges, life has not only survived, but flourished. When these roundworms face unfavorable conditions, lack of air or food or extreme temperatures, they enter a unique state of stasis, a form of deep hibernation. In this mode, their metabolism plummets, and nearly all bodily processes cease. They can remain dormant for extended periods, awakening only when the environment becomes more hospitable. But you don't have to venture to such extreme depths to find nematodes. They are ubiquitous, inhabiting environments across the globe, from hot springs to deserts to high-altitude terrains. These resilient creatures are a testament to the tenacity of life on Earth. Picture this: the crushing depths of the Antarctic wilderness, or even the internal landscapes of animals and humans. Here, we find some of the most resilient beings on Earth, the tardigrades, also known as water bears. These minuscule eight-legged invertebrates are kin to the arthropod family. So tiny, they evade the naked eye, but bring a conventional microscope into play, and a hidden world unfolds. Before us, the tardigrades appear in detail, resembling miniature bears. The nickname water bears stems from their need for a thin film of moisture enveloping their bodies at all times, a vital defense against dehydration. These creatures have conquered virtually every environment imaginable, from the deepest ocean trenches to windswept sand dunes. Their resilience arises from their unique biological structure. While seemingly delicate, their bodies are shielded by a robust cuticle, akin to the exoskeletons of grasshoppers, praying mantises, and countless other insects. As they grow, water bears shed this protective layer. Each of their 8 legs terminates in 4 to 6 tiny claws, granting them an exceptional grip on any surface. These remarkable beings laugh in the face of extreme temperatures. They can endure cold nearly 3 times as intense as that found in Antarctic ice. And heat? A mere inconvenience. They have been proven to withstand temperatures that would make water boil. But the tardigrade's defiance doesn't end there. Radiation and immense pressure hold no fear for them. In the ocean's abyss, pressures capable of crushing the strongest metal alloys are shrugged off by these microscopic titans. They can withstand pressures 6 times greater than those found at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Perhaps most astonishingly, they can survive in the vacuum of space. Our planet is embraced by a magnetic field, a shield against the sun's harmful radiation. Tardigrades, however, need no such protection. They can venture into near-Earth orbit and return unscathed, all thanks to a special protein bolstering and protecting their DNA from ionizing radiation. Like other organisms famed for their near immortality, water bears can enter a state of cryptobiosis. When faced with freezing, desiccation, or oxygen deprivation, tardigrades retract their head and legs, transforming into a dormant, barrel-like form. In this state, they remain suspended, awaiting the return of favorable conditions. So, we've explored microscopic organisms, invisible without the aid of a lens. But what about something larger? Enter the ironclad beetle. These armored insects inhabit the southwestern United States and Mexico. While they may not be able to survive intense radiation or the vacuum of space, their exoskeletons are so formidable that only a drill or hammer can pierce them. This incredible armor is composed of chitin, a resilient substance also found in the shells of crabs and shrimp. However, the chitin of the ironclad beetle, Phlioides diabolicus, is in a class of its own, capable of withstanding the crushing force of a car speeding at high velocity. In moments of peril, the ironclad beetle retracts its antennae and powerful legs into specialized recesses within its shell. Predators find themselves unable to penetrate this natural fortress. Frustrated, they abandon the beetle, seeking a more yielding meal elsewhere. Once the threat subsides, the beetle extends its limbs and resumes its activities. Moreover, this armor safeguards the beetle from dehydration, a crucial advantage in the arid landscapes of Mexico and the southwestern United States. The exoskeleton allows them to store moisture, absorbing water whenever available and transporting it within their armored shell. Now, let us turn our attention to creatures of a different kind, beings of incredible fragility, yet masters of survival in environments where few others can endure. Our destination is southeastern Romania, near the shores of the Black Sea. Here, amidst a desolate plain, lies a pit, a mine shaft plunging deep into the earth. On the surface, the air we breathe contains approximately 20% oxygen. Within the mine, that figure plummets to a mere 10%. The air is further tainted by elevated levels of hydrogen sulfide and carbon dioxide. A human could not survive here without an oxygen tank. It would be fair to say that the air and water are effectively poisoned. Almost no animal life could persist under such conditions. Yet, remarkably, 48 species of living organisms have been identified within this cave. Of these, 33 are entirely new to science. And these are not merely microbes or bacteria, visible only under a microscope. Larger creatures dwell here. Pale, ghostly snails glide across the cave walls. Transparent shrimp and enigmatic leeches navigate the waters. A truly alien ecosystem thrives in this subterranean realm. Imagine a hidden world, deep beneath the surface. Here, in the perpetual darkness, strange creatures crawl and scuttle. Centipedes, grotesquely adorned with enormous whiskers, navigate the unseen terrain. Pale spectral spiders, devoid of color, dart across the cave floor. They've evolved in this isolated realm for nearly 5 million years, adapting to a world untouched by sunlight. Look closely, and you might spot a water scorpion, an anomaly unlike any of its surface-dwelling brethren. This isn't the scorpion of scorching sands or lush tropical forests. Here, evolution has taken a bizarre turn. Every living thing is either ghostly white or eerily transparent. Eyes are a useless luxury in this abyss, replaced by elongated paws and sensitive antennae, whisker-like appendages that feel their way through the Stygian gloom. As we venture deeper into the cave's embrace, the very air changes. Oxygen grows scarce, yet life impossibly flourishes. Methane and carbon dioxide saturate the atmosphere. The inhabitants of this subterranean kingdom have never witnessed the life-giving rays of the sun, never known a world beyond the cave's dark embrace. Survival here seems an impossibility. How can life thrive where plants, the usual providers of... You've likely heard tales of the mythical island kingdom of Atlantis, a supposed high-tech utopia where its inhabitants lived lives of unparalleled joy and prosperity. But then, without warning, disaster struck, and Atlantis vanished from the face of the earth, swallowed by the depths. Many believe its ruins lie beneath the waves of the Atlantic Ocean, lost to time. But what if the search has been misdirected all along? What if Atlantis rests in a location far removed from the ocean's grasp? Imagine, if you will, that this legendary city lies not beneath the Atlantic waves, but in the heart of the Sahara Desert. This astonishing theory, while seemingly improbable, does possess threads of supporting evidence. But to truly examine this alternative hypothesis, we must first journey back to the origins of the Atlantis myth and understand how it first captured our imaginations. The earliest known written account of this enigmatic city dates back to 360 BCE, penned by the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. In his dialogues, Plato described Atlantis as a land of immense wealth and technological marvels. Its people, he claimed, were powerful, intelligent, and possessed an almost superhuman beauty. Plato meticulously detailed the city's intricate structure, a key reason why belief in its existence has persisted for millennia. According to his writings, the Atlanteans constructed their capital as a series of concentric circles, fashioned from black and red stone, then adorned with shimmering brass, tin, and precious metals. Within the city flowed intricate water channels, allowing ships to sail through its very heart. As skilled seafarers, the Atlanteans engineered a navigable passage connecting their metropolis to the open ocean. Now, envision the countless artistic renderings of Atlantis inspired by Plato's descriptions readily found across the internet. Then, cast your gaze upon an actual photograph of the Eye of the Sahara, also known as the Riche structure. This geological formation in Mauritania presents a striking resemblance, displaying a series of concentric rings etched into the desert landscape. Could this be the mark of a vanished city, a ghostly imprint left upon the sands of time? Many have speculated online that this very location was once home to the lost city of Atlantis, although concrete proof has remained elusive. Consider this. In prehistoric times, the Sahara Desert was not the arid expanse we know today. It was a verdant land, teeming with rivers and lakes. Water was everywhere. Thus, the geographical requirements seemed to align. The Eye of the Sahara was first brought to the world's attention in the 1930s. Initially, it was believed to be the impact crater of a massive meteorite. However, in the mid-20th century, scientific analysis of the soil composition debunked the space rock theory. The prevailing explanation now points to a geological dome formed by molten rock, with magma churning beneath the surface for eons. Over countless millennia, the relentless forces of wind and water eroded the landscape, sculpting the seemingly perfect circular patterns we observe today. But what if, long ago, the Atlanteans arrived at this location and harnessed these natural formations as the foundation for their magnificent city? If this were the case, we might expect to uncover substantial remnants and artifacts from this advanced civilization. Indeed, archaeologists have unearthed arrowheads, spears, tools, and other objects in the area. But these artifacts are the relics of a different people. These finds are attributed to the Assyrian culture, an ancient tribe that frequented the region. Assyrian tools first appeared over 1.5 million years ago, with some specimens dating back as far as 130,000 years. Yet, according to the established timeline, Atlantis supposedly existed around 12,000 years ago. Moreover, archaeologists have found no evidence of artificial structures or the telltale debris of a large, sophisticated city. Surely, such an advanced metropolis would have left behind considerable traces of its existence. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, one particular YouTube channel championed the Sahara Atlantis theory, garnering millions of views and sparking debate among historians and anthropologists. However, this theory was swiftly discredited, as numerous inconsistencies arose between the actual site and Plato's detailed descriptions of Atlantis. It appeared that the author had capitalized on superficial similarities between the natural geological formation and the fictional city to capture the attention of viewers. Another widely circulated theory posits that Atlantis was a genuine continent situated near the Bahamas, only to be swallowed by the infamous Bermuda Triangle. According to this legend, the city's ruins still lie on the seabed within the triangle's boundaries. However, this theory also lacks verifiable support. Writer Charles Berlitz is credited with popularizing this version of the Atlantis myth. Proponents of this theory suggest that certain wall-like formations and street-like patterns observed off the western coast of the Bahamas could be the remnants of Atlantis. However, geologists have refuted this claim, demonstrating that these structures are natural formations of coastal rocks, sculpted by the relentless action of the ocean over vast stretches of time. Finally, some historians speculate that the Atlantis narrative may have been inspired by a real-world cataclysm, the Black Sea flood. Let's journey back in time, to an era when the world looked vastly different. Imagine the Bosporus, that vital strait in modern-day Turkey, connecting the Black Sea with the Sea of Marmara. Now, picture this. Around 5600 BCE, the Black Sea was a mere shadow of its current self, a smaller body of water fringed by thriving settlements. But tragedy struck. A cataclysmic flood, a deluge of unimaginable proportions, swept through this region, obliterating a flourishing civilization in a single year. Cities vanished beneath the waves, swallowed by the encroaching sea. The surviving inhabitants, displaced and traumatized, scattered to foreign lands, carrying with them haunting tales of the Great Flood. Could these stories, whispered across generations, have inspired the legendary Atlantis, the lost city of Plato? In the 1950s, a new theory emerged, a radical reimagining of Atlantis. This version placed the lost continent in Antarctica, the frozen wasteland at the bottom of the world. The idea went that tens of thousands of years ago, Antarctica was a warm, verdant land, home to a sophisticated civilization. A shift in the Earth's crust supposedly dragged this continent southward, plunging it into frigid darkness. The Atlanteans, unable to adapt to the sudden and extreme cold, were buried beneath a thick blanket of ice, their magnificent cities entombed in a frozen grave. However, this theory crumbled under the scrutiny of science. As researchers delved deeper into the mysteries of tectonic plates, the Earth's fragmented shell, they discovered that such a massive displacement of an entire continent like Antarctica was simply impossible. The tectonic plates just don't work that way. But the fundamental question remains: was Atlantis ever real? No one described Atlantis before Plato. Did the philosopher invent it? Perhaps he crafted this elaborate tale to underscore the validity of his philosophical views, to give weight to his theories. In his writings, Plato frequently explored the themes of divine and human nature, and the potential for humanity to corrupt and destroy the natural order. He wrote of societies in decline, succumbing to immoral behavior and vice. The Atlanteans, once a virtuous and spiritual people who had created a utopian society, gradually became consumed by greed and malice. They corrupted their inner nature, and as punishment, they were forced to witness the destruction of their city. As the story goes, one night, a terrifying combination of fires and earthquakes struck Atlantis, plunging the city into the depths of the ocean. The higher powers, angered by the Atlanteans' immoral conduct, unleashed their wrath. Plato, it seems, aimed to instill fear of moral decay in his audience. Yet the vivid descriptions of earthquakes and fire suggest another possibility: that Atlantis was destroyed by a volcanic eruption, much like the ancient Roman city of Pompeii. Such catastrophic events have occurred repeatedly throughout history, devastating even the most advanced civilizations. One particularly dramatic example occurred around 1100 BCE in the Mediterranean Sea. A colossal volcanic eruption obliterated the Minoan civilization, a highly developed society that had flourished for approximately 2,000 years. These people primarily inhabited the islands of Crete and Santorini, located to the north of Crete. The Minoans were master builders and engineers. They constructed elegant homes, developed sophisticated sewage systems, and cultivated a thriving economy. They were skilled in agriculture, growing a variety of fruits and vegetables. They adorned their walls with vibrant frescoes and crafted exquisite jewelry. They were, in essence, the founders of the first thalassocracy, a maritime empire built upon naval power. They engaged in piracy and dominated maritime trade. However, their way of life was far from virtuous. They practiced cruel rituals, and their society was rife with moral decay. The Minoans were accustomed to earthquakes on the island of Santorini, and they had developed techniques to reinforce their city walls with wooden beams. But they were unprepared for the sheer destructive force of a volcanic eruption. When the acrid smell of sulfur filled the air, they failed to recognize the impending catastrophe. When the volcano erupted, spewing tons of lava and ash into the sky, the residents of Santorini fled their homes in terror, desperately seeking escape. But there was nowhere to run. The eruption and the ensuing earthquake triggered a massive tsunami, a towering wave that crashed upon the coastal regions of Crete. This natural disaster dealt a crippling blow to the Minoan economy and destroyed their vital port harbor. Taking advantage of the Minoans' weakened state, foreign invaders attacked Crete, delivering the final blow to this once great civilization. Some historians believe that Plato may have drawn inspiration from the Minoan Empire when crafting his tale of Atlantis. Through their example, he illustrated how immoral actions can ultimately lead to the downfall of a society. What do you think? Could there be truth to the legend of Atlantis? It remains one of history's most enduring mysteries. The legend began with Plato in ancient Greece, a story of a civilization that thrived long before our own. Atlantis, supposedly a technologically advanced society, met its end when a flood, sent as punishment for its people's greed, submerged its cities. Various theories attempt to pinpoint Atlantis's location. Some place it in the Mediterranean Sea, while others suggest it lies beneath the Bermuda Triangle. But as science tells us, Atlantis may be simply an allegory for humankind. Imagine journeying to lost underwater cities, relics of bygone eras, not mere myths, but tangible realities beneath the waves. Our first destination, Baiae, off the Italian coast, once hailed as the Las Vegas of the Roman Empire. Picture it, a resort city where Rome's elite flocked for leisure and pleasure. Imagine open-air spas, the epitome of relaxation. Today, you can explore this submerged city firsthand. Don your scuba gear and descend into the depths, coming face to face with remarkably preserved Roman sculptures. A true underwater marvel. For those who prefer to stay dry, glass-bottom boats offer glimpses of crumbled temples and buildings, a moss-covered museum frozen in time. To your left, observe a collection of classical Greek statues within Claudio's Nymphaeum. Swim along the Via Herculania, and you'll arrive at opulent Baiae villas, their Italian-style architecture still evident. Marvel at the original marble floors, their black and white patterns forming astounding shapes that have survived the centuries. Next, we reach Portus Julius. Can you make out the collapsing wall structures resting on the seafloor? Well-preserved columns and limestone floors hint at the grandeur that once was. Behold the ruins of the thermal baths of Lacus, where multicolored mosaics still display their vibrant hues. Notice the orange, blue, and green tiles, remnants of a luxurious past. Venture closer to the Piscina di Pisoni, and you'll encounter 25 remarkably preserved Roman pillars. Observe the arches, the faint traces of frescoes, and the sheer scale of this well-kept treasure. Baiae thrived thanks to its location over natural volcanic vents, providing a constant source of hot spring water. People, including some of the most famous Roman emperors like Nero, Cicero, and Caesar, came seeking the ultimate good time. However, around the 8th century, disaster struck. The city was sacked and abandoned. Slowly, inexorably, the water level rose, submerging Baiae beneath the waves. Now shift your perspective. Imagine a summer vacation off the coast of Greece, a few hours from Athens on the Peloponnese Peninsula. You find yourself at Pavlopetri. Snorkel in hand, you dive into the crystal-clear water on a bright sunny day. Descending to depths of 13 feet, you begin to notice strange patterns on the seabed. Outlines of familiar shapes start to emerge, one by one. As you swim further, the unmistakable form of an entire city unfolds before your eyes. How could water have swallowed an entire city? Rocks are aligned with precision, forming what appears to be the foundations of buildings. Nicholas Fleming, a British oceanographer, stumbled upon Pavlopetri during a vacation in Greece. While documenting seafloor artifacts, his team discovered a site teeming with pots, storage vessels, and tools. Among these finds was a quernstone, used for grinding grains into flour. The abundance of these tools suggests that this settlement dates back to the Bronze Age, a staggering 5,500 years ago, when humans first began to congregate in towns. It's believed that the settlement thrived for over 2,400 years. Pavlopetri stands today as the oldest submerged town ever discovered. What's truly remarkable is that this wasn't a simple village. It was a bustling port city, complete with stone buildings, a marketplace, streets, and even public squares. Our journey continues as we seek out more secrets hidden beneath the waves. Next, we find ourselves diving off the coast of the Ryukyu Islands. The Pacific waters here are far from tranquil. A powerful current threatens to pull you into the abyss. Suddenly, a colossal structure appears before you, illuminated by the sunlight filtering through the water. At first glance, it resembles the ruins of Machu Picchu, transported across the globe from Peru. As you draw closer, its form becomes clearer. A pyramid-shaped structure, complete with arches and staircases. It could easily have been a palace or a castle. Could this be another sign of ancient human activity? What you are witnessing is known as the Yonaguni Monument, often referred to as Japan's Atlantis. This immense structure is roughly the size of 5 football fields and as tall as a 5-story building. One of its most striking features is its expansive terraces, seemingly designed to accommodate large gatherings. Explorers and scientists estimate that Yonaguni dates back 10,000 years. However, its origins remain a subject of debate. Is it a man-made structure or a natural formation? For Japan's leading marine geologist, Professor Masaki Kimura, Yonaguni is undoubtedly the legacy of a lost civilization. Kimura has dedicated himself to exploring the ruins, diving to its depths over 100 times. According to him, over the last decade, unmistakable indications of human craftsmanship are visible down below. The triangular pool situated on the surface of the monument features a triangle-shaped depression, a design traditionally used for water fountains in this region. Furthermore, a massive turtle is etched into the structure's eastern flank. Cura posits that turtles hold considerable cultural importance. Numerous stone tools have been unearthed at the site, estimated to be roughly 10,000 years old. However, not all scholars share this conviction. Many believe that Yonaguni is simply the product of millennia of natural erosion. The monument's monolithic composition leads them to surmise that it's not man-made. The sharp edges and leveled surfaces are reminiscent of a natural formation in Northern Ireland called the Giant's Causeway. There, a series of interlocking basalt columns create an illusion of palace ruins, but these formations are purely the result of ancient volcanic activity in the region. Now, let's stay alert for more underwater revelations. Our next stop on this aquatic journey is one of the most well-known submerged cities, now transformed into an underwater archaeological park, Port Royal, Jamaica. Today, Port Royal exists only beneath the waves, but back in 1692, it stood as one of the wealthiest cities in the Western Hemisphere. Port Royal was the bustling epicenter of the British Empire and a vital trading hub, drawing people from across the globe. It also served as a haven for real-life pirates of the Caribbean. But on the morning of June 7, 1692, the inhabitants of Port Royal were met with a cataclysmic fate. The lively bars and restaurants, teeming with life, were shaken awake. People were thrown from their beds by the force of a massive earthquake, estimated today to have been a 7.5 on the Richter scale. One survivor recounted seeing the earth split open, swallowing the town hall whole. His account might well be true, as the city was largely built upon sand. The ground simply gave way, pulling down buildings, roads, and the unfortunate souls above. Geysers erupted from the earth, and then colossal waves, some as high as 10-story buildings, crashed into the city. Roughly 33 acres of the city vanished beneath the waves, and remarkably, much of its 17th-century remains are still preserved in excellent condition under just 40 feet of water. Within these underwater ruins, archaeologists have discovered taverns, storage rooms, kitchens, and recreational buildings used for all manner of purposes. You can still see a majestic lion statue, a submerged bridge, and numerous picturesque arches. Now, how about a trip to India? Just off its coast lies another sunken marvel, the lost city of Cambay, situated in the Gulf of the same name. This city remained hidden until 2001, when the National Institute of Ocean Technology was conducting a routine water assessment using sonar. Sonar sends sound waves to the sea floor, and on this occasion, something incredible was discovered far beneath the surface. The images revealed clearly defined geometric structures sprawling across a 5-mile area. The recovered remains have been dated to over 9,500 years ago, suggesting this civilization was lost around the end of the Ice Age. Debris recovered from the site includes construction materials, pottery, beads, sculptures, and even bones. Scientists are still debating whether these artifacts truly originate from the site, but if they do, the lost city of Cambay would represent the oldest civilization ever discovered. Imagine, it's November 1922. A young boy wanders through the desolate desert mountains of Egypt and stumbles upon ancient steps carved into the rock. Little did he know, this chance discovery would become one of the most significant archaeological finds in history. These steps led to the untouched tomb of Tutankhamun. Archaeologists unearthed around 5,000 ancient artifacts, including priceless jewelry, delicate fabrics, ornate painted vases, and iconic funeral masks. You've likely seen one of these masks. It has become one of the most recognizable symbols of ancient Egypt. Now, more than a century later, humanity stands on the cusp of another monumental discovery, the tomb of Cleopatra. This legendary queen was the final active ruler of the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt, reigning from 51 to 30 BC. Countless ancient texts speak of Cleopatra, her reign, and her captivating personality. Yet the location of her final resting place has remained a mystery, eluding discovery for millennia. But one determined archaeologist, Dr. Kathleen Martinez, has dedicated herself to studying ancient records and, for years, scholars have meticulously studied the ancient temples scattered around Alexandria, seeking to pinpoint the final resting place of Egypt's legendary queen. Their research has increasingly pointed towards Taposiris Magna, a city founded in 280 BC. Imagine this bustling metropolis on Egypt's northern coast, a hub of trade and industry teeming with tens of thousands of inhabitants. Remarkably, Dr. Martinez's long-held suspicions appear to be bearing fruit. She and her team of dedicated archaeologists have recently unearthed a clandestine underground tunnel not far from Alexandria, stretching nearly a mile beneath the temple of Taposiris Magna. This incredible discovery was carved directly into the bedrock. Further excavations have yielded a wealth of clues, suggesting that Cleopatra's elusive tomb lies hidden deep within this subterranean passage. Could it be that she rests there alongside her Roman lover, Mark Antony? Historical accounts paint a vivid picture of their passionate bond and their united defiance against the Roman Senate, which ultimately branded Antony a traitor. The path to uncovering this historical treasure is fraught with challenges. Over millennia, Taposiris Magna has been ravaged by natural disasters. Earthquakes and devastating floods have repeatedly struck the city, potentially inundating and collapsing its intricate network of underground tunnels. Yet the archaeologists remain hopeful that Cleopatra's tomb has somehow remained untouched, preserving within it invaluable artifacts and records that offer a glimpse into the opulent royal life of ancient Egypt's final dynasty. The excavation efforts may require venturing into treacherous underwater and muddy conditions, demanding significant time and substantial financial investment. However, the archaeologists are unwavering in their belief that the potential rewards far outweigh the obstacles. While definitive proof of Cleopatra's burial within the tunnel remains elusive, the discoveries thus far are compelling. Among the artifacts recovered are ancient clay pots, numerous coins bearing the likenesses of Cleopatra and Alexander the Great, and even a bust believed to depict the Egyptian queen herself. Even today, Cleopatra's seventh Philopater, remains one of Egypt's most iconic figures, rivaling the fame of pharaohs like Ramses III and Tutankhamun. Her story has inspired countless films, paintings, and literary works. But what is it about this queen that continues to captivate our imaginations? Cleopatra was renowned for her multifaceted nature. She was a beautiful and intelligent ruler who skillfully guided Egypt out of economic turmoil, transforming it into a prosperous power. Medieval Arabic texts credit her with extensive knowledge of chemistry, mathematics, and philosophy, even suggesting she authored several scientific treatises. She was a polyglot, fluent in numerous languages, and possessed exceptional diplomatic skills. Yet, alongside these accomplishments, legends portray her as a captivating femme fatale who bewitched many men. However, there is scant evidence to suggest that her beauty was truly unparalleled. The image of Cleopatra as a stunning beauty was largely a creation of Hollywood, popularized through films featuring glamorous actresses in the role. Moreover, Octavian, the adopted son of Julius Caesar and Cleopatra's political rival, deliberately cultivated an image of her as a treacherous seductress to undermine her reputation. Despite being born in Egypt, Cleopatra's lineage was Greek. Her ancestors included one of Alexander the Great's generals. Yet, she was deeply loved by the Egyptian people. She embraced their language, showed profound respect for their traditions, and possessed an intimate understanding of their history, mentality, and customs. She revitalized the Egyptian economy and elevated its standing on the world stage. Much of her success can be attributed to her cunning and charisma. Cleopatra reveled in theatrical performances and extravagant celebrations. She had a knack for captivating her audience and staging elaborate spectacles. But beneath the veneer of a luxury-loving queen lay an astute and calculating ruler. Ancient Egypt was a realm of immense wealth and splendor, and Cleopatra dedicated herself to amplifying its riches and solidifying its influence in the international arena. Consider her conflict with her brother, Ptolemy XIII. Recognizing her inability to defeat him militarily, Cleopatra sought to enlist the support of Julius Caesar. When the Roman emperor arrived in Alexandria, Cleopatra orchestrated a clandestine meeting. Aware of Ptolemy's attempts to thwart her, she forwent a grand, conspicuous arrival. Instead, she concealed herself within a carpet or linen bag, which was then carried into Caesar's private chambers. Emerging from the carpet, Cleopatra captivated the Roman emperor with her beauty and resolve. This audacious move forged a powerful alliance, forever changing the course of history. For diplomatic grandiosity, Cleopatra, a true power player in Roman affairs, orchestrated a meeting with Mark Antony. Imagine a golden barge, its purple sails billowing in the wind, adorned with gleaming silver oars, gliding majestically into view. Cleopatra, embodying the goddess Aphrodite herself, reclined beneath a lavish canopy. Servants, costumed as cupids, fanned her with gentle breezes and filled the air with the intoxicating aroma of burning incense. But this spectacle was no mere vanity project. Cleopatra, ever the shrewd strategist, understood Antony's deep reverence for Greek mythology and his self-proclaimed identity as the embodiment of Dionysus. This carefully crafted image was designed to captivate him, and it worked. Antony, utterly spellbound by this vision of regal splendor, ultimately took Cleopatra as his wife. With Antony by her side, Cleopatra solidified her reign, strengthened her alliance with the Roman Empire, and brought 3 children into the world. Their life in Egypt was one of extravagant parties and opulent displays of wealth and power. However, this high-profile relationship between a Roman official and the Egyptian queen ignited a firestorm of scandal back in Rome. Octavian, Antony's chief rival in the ruthless struggle for power, seized the opportunity to tarnish his competitor's reputation. He unleashed a torrent of propaganda, painting Cleopatra as an insidious seductress in the eyes of Roman citizens. He accused Antony of succumbing to her irresistible charms, of betraying Rome for the allure of an Egyptian queen. The Roman Senate, swayed by Octavian's relentless campaign, declared Cleopatra an enemy of the state in 33 BCE. The conflict reached its boiling point when Antony's navy clashed with Octavian's fleet in a cataclysmic naval battle. Octavian's forces emerged victorious, forcing Antony to retreat to Egypt with Cleopatra. According to historical accounts, they sought refuge near Alexandria, relentlessly pursued by the relentless Roman army. They took shelter within one of Cleopatra's palaces, where they ultimately met their tragic end. Legends whisper that Cleopatra, a master of poisons, orchestrated her own demise. Some say she provoked a venomous snake, a viper, or perhaps an Egyptian cobra, to deliver a fatal bite. Others claim she pricked herself with a poison needle, a secret weapon concealed within her elaborate hairstyles. The theory suggests that Cleopatra always oxygen cannot exist. The answer lies hidden within a small, still lake. The water's surface is veiled by a peculiar frothy foam. A closer inspection reveals that this white substance pulses with life. It resembles nothing so much as soft, damp paper, easily torn, yet it is composed of billions upon billions of microscopic organisms, bacteria known as autotrophs. The cave's atmosphere is heavy with carbon dioxide, far exceeding levels found on the surface. These bacteria, like plants, greedily absorb this gas, but their method is radically different. They bypass photosynthesis entirely, rendering sunlight irrelevant. Instead, they utilize chemosynthesis, drawing energy from the chemical-rich waters around them. These bacteria, in turn, secrete substances that nourish other bacteria, which then become sustenance for larger creatures. This is a food cycle utterly unique, a self-contained ecosystem found nowhere else on Earth. Now, cast your mind back to your geography lessons. You were taught that the world is divided into 7 continents. But in 2017, scientists unveiled a discovery that challenges this long-held belief: Zealandia. They proposed a radical revision of world maps, presenting compelling evidence for a hidden continent. Consider the ocean floor near New Zealand. The continental shelves of this enigmatic landmass lie submerged at a depth of roughly 3,280 feet below sea level. The adjacent oceanic crust plunges even further, reaching depths of 9,800 feet. These imposing altitudes, rising from the abyssal depths to the towering Mount Cook, which stands at a majestic 12,027 feet above sea level, hint at a hidden continental structure. Driven by scientific curiosity, brave geologists ventured into the depths, retrieving rock samples from the ocean floor. Their analysis revealed a stark contrast to the surrounding oceanic crust, which is primarily composed of fresh basaltic rock. The crust around New Zealand is a complex mosaic of granite, limestone, sandstone, and incredibly ancient rock formations. This diverse composition is a hallmark of continental crust. Finally, scientists identified a slender strip of oceanic crust separating Australia from the submerged realm of Zealandia, confirming their status as distinct continents. Zealandia's story began 85 million years ago when it broke free from the ancient supercontinent of Gondwana. Millions of years later, the Earth's tectonic plates, the planet's fragmented crust, engaged in a tumultuous dance. The mighty Pacific Plate, a heavyweight champion among tectonic plates, began to subduct, diving beneath Zealandia's continental crust. This process of subduction ultimately severed Zealandia's root, its connection to the underlying continental crust, sending it plunging into the Earth's mantle. As you can see, the formation of a continent is a slow, dramatic process, unfolding over millions of years. But what if the impossible were to occur? What if a new continent were to emerge overnight in the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean? Imagine the shock, the disbelief as news reports flooded the airwaves. For this newfound land to be recognized as a true continent, it would need to possess a substantial surface area, comparable to Zealandia, and form a large contiguous landmass surrounded by water. Here's the challenge. The Pacific Ocean boasts an average depth of 13,000 feet. For a continent to rise from these depths, an immense volume of rock would need to be forced upward, reshaping the ocean floor. Such a rapid emergence would trigger a catastrophic rise in sea levels. Low-lying nations like Bangladesh, Senegal, and the Netherlands would face inundation. Ocean currents would undergo a radical transformation, and the North Pacific subtropical gyre, a vibrant haven for marine life, would be irrevocably altered. Imagine a sudden shift. The very currents that course through the ocean depths, guiding countless marine creatures on their age-old journeys, are disrupted. Those creatures, utterly reliant on these underwater rivers, would find themselves adrift, desperately seeking a new compass. And what of the sedentary life forms, anchored to the seabed, their existence inextricably linked to the flow of nutrients? Their lifeline, their very sustenance, could vanish in an instant. The oceans, those vast interconnected waterways that bind our world, would be forever altered. It would be as if a new continent had risen from the depths, an uncharted territory injected into the delicate balance of the marine ecosystem. And what of the nations bordering this newfound landmass? The temptation to lay claim to this unexpected bounty would be irresistible. But this continent would be a stark and unforgiving landscape. No lush forests, no life-giving freshwater springs, only the cold, unyielding embrace of rock upon rock. A pioneer dreaming of settling this novelty would face an immense challenge. They would need to embark on a colossal terraforming project to make it even remotely habitable. But let us turn our gaze to a real newly discovered continent, Zealandia. This is no ordinary landmass, but a microcontinent, the official term for a fragment that has broken away from a larger continental plate. In this case, Zealandia was once part of Antarctica and Australia. Zealandia is a land of secrets, shyly concealing most of its bulk beneath the waves. Only a mere 7% of its total land area emerges above the water's surface. Yet, despite its submerged nature, it stretches to nearly 70% the size of Australia. And proudly protruding from the ocean are two major islands we know and love as New Zealand, the North Island and the South Island, along with a scattering of smaller, equally captivating islands. The South Island boasts glaciers, such as the magnificent Tasman Glacier. Thanks to ancient glacial activity, Zealandia also showcases breathtaking fjords and valleys. Further north, New Caledonia exudes a tropical allure, its culture and climate deeply intertwined with the broader Oceania and South Pacific regions. This unofficial eighth continent is a geological hotspot. Part of it rests on the Australian plate, while the remainder rides the Pacific plate. This tectonic tug-of-war creates 6 major areas of active volcanism. Geysers and hot springs are scattered across the landscape, testaments to the steamy interaction between the Australian and Pacific plates. Beneath the waves, Zealandia guards a treasure trove of mineral deposits and natural gas fields. It is also a living laboratory for scientists. During the glacial periods, when sea levels plummeted, more of Zealandia was exposed, leaving behind a rich fossil record. These fossils serve as an encyclopedia, providing invaluable clues about the life that thrived here in ancient times. The quest to find Zealandia spanned 375 years. It began in 1642, when Dutch seafarer and explorer Abel Tasman embarked on a mission from Jakarta, Indonesia. In those days, Europeans were convinced that a massive landmass must exist in the southern hemisphere to balance the continents of the north. They even had a name for it: Terra Australis. Tasman was determined to be the first to discover this fabled continent. He sailed west, then south, then east, eventually reaching the South Island of New Zealand. But his arrival was met with fierce resistance. The local Maori people, who had inhabited these lands for centuries, did not welcome the newcomers. They attacked one of Tasman's small boats, resulting in the deaths of 4 Europeans. What happened next remains shrouded in mystery. Weeks later, Tasman sailed back home, never having set foot on the land he believed to be the Great Southern Continent. He never returned. Unbeknownst to the explorer, he had been right all along. A missing continent did exist. But it wasn't until 2017 that Zealandia was officially recognized as such. But Zealandia is not the only lost continent to be found. Another one exists, not hidden in the ocean depths, but buried beneath Europe. It is called Greater Adria. Around 140 million years ago, Greater Adria collided with Europe and began to sink beneath it. Today, it lies beneath Italy, Greece, and the Balkans. Its size and shape are comparable to Greenland, the world's largest island. Greater Adria is no longer visible, but it has left its mark. Fragments of the lost continent were embedded in the Alps, while other chunks were incorporated into present-day Italy and Croatia. On the Adriatic coast, limestone rocks from the former continent underwent a dramatic transformation. Buried beneath the European landmass, they were subjected to intense heat and pressure for tens of millions of years. The limestone was transformed into marble. The magnificent Greek and Roman temples that grace the Mediterranean landscape are constructed from this marble, a parting gift from a long-lost continent. Though imperceptible, our planet is in constant motion, even beneath our feet. Imagine, millions of years in the past, Australia and Antarctica were not separate continents, but a single, vast landmass. Over eons, these titans of geography drifted apart. However, Antarctica didn't simply relinquish its connection to the world. It carried away a piece of a lost world. Today, in the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean, lies an oceanic plateau, a submerged testament to a carried an ampule with poison inside her hairbrush, and when she was cornered, she soaked the needle with this poison and pricked herself. The truth remains shrouded in mystery. Scientists continue to investigate, hoping that the discovery of Cleopatra's tomb will finally unlock the secrets surrounding her tragic fate. She is remembered as the last pharaoh, the final ruler of Egypt. After her death, Octavian plundered her palaces and temples, returning to Rome as the undisputed emperor. He ruled with absolute authority, expanding the empire's borders until his death at the age of 75. World history would have been irrevocably altered had Cleopatra and Mark Antony emerged victorious in that fateful naval battle. Consider this: the span of time separating Cleopatra's reign from Neil Armstrong's historic walk on the moon is shorter than the time between her reign and the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Armstrong's lunar landing occurred in 1969, a mere 10,038 years after Cleopatra's birth, while the construction of the Great Pyramid took place around 2560 BCE. Imagine the sheer magnitude of ancient Egyptian history. Cleopatra is far closer to us in time than she is to the pyramids that stand as enduring symbols of her ancient world. Did you know that NASA's explorations extend beyond the stars, planets, galaxies, and black holes? It may seem improbable, but the agency also dedicates resources to discoveries right here on our home planet, Earth. So, what groundbreaking findings has NASA unearthed recently? Could there be life thriving beneath the icy expanse of Antarctica? While analyzing data, they stumbled upon something extraordinary hidden beneath the Antarctic ice. This discovery has the potential to revolutionize our understanding of Earth's entire water system and could provide invaluable insights into the possibility of life beyond our planet. The very survival of humankind may hinge on unraveling the mysteries concealed within Antarctica. These recent discoveries offer crucial information about our future, but before we delve deeper, let's test your knowledge of this frozen continent, a realm of seemingly endless ice. Antarctica, one of the world's 7 continents, lies in the southernmost reaches of the globe. It ranks as the 5th largest continent in terms of land area, nearly twice the size of Australia. If you seek genuine meteorites, Antarctica is your destination. Thanks to its exceptionally dry climate, Antarctica provides the ideal conditions for observing the vastness of space. Even more remarkably, the continent's pristine white surface serves as a perfect backdrop for spotting meteorites. Scientists have already recovered approximately 45,000 meteorites from the ice, and they estimate that another 300,000 await discovery. The scarcity of terrestrial rocks makes it easier to identify these celestial visitors, their dark coloration contrasting sharply against the white landscape. Antarctica's arid desert environment also plays a crucial role in preserving these space rocks for millennia. Imagine a world where fire meets ice, a place of stark contrasts and hidden wonders. We're talking about Antarctica. Believe it or not, this frozen continent has a fiery secret. More than 138 volcanoes rumble beneath West Antarctica alone. It's a place where meteorites, some dating back over 1 million years, have crashed onto the icy surface. While we often picture Antarctica as perpetually frozen, its coastal regions can surprisingly reach temperatures as warm as 50 degrees. But what would this land look like without its icy blanket? It's a question that seems impossible to answer, considering that ice has covered the landscape for approximately 34 million years. Enter NASA, armed with cutting-edge technology. Through complex computer simulations, they've created the most accurate map of Antarctica, as it would appear ice-free. The results are astonishing. Far from being flat, the continent is a tapestry of valleys, rolling plains, and towering mountains. But the real surprises lie hidden beneath the ice. Prepare for a revelation. NASA has discovered not 1, but 2 new subglacial lakes. And the truly remarkable part? These hidden bodies of water were detected from space. How is this possible? The answer lies in a fleet of high-tech satellites. In 2003, NASA launched IceSat, a groundbreaking satellite designed to measure ice sheet mass balance and cloud aerosol heights. IceSat also played a crucial role in creating the ice-free map of Antarctica. Then, in 2010, the European Space Agency launched Cryosat-2, dedicated to monitoring changes in ice thickness. Not to be outdone, NASA launched IceSat-2 in 2018, an even more advanced follow-up to the original IceSat. Equipped with NASA's most precise Earth-observing laser instrument, it measured ice sheet elevation and sea ice thickness with unparalleled accuracy. By combining data from these sophisticated satellites, scientists were able to pinpoint the location of the 2 new lakes, nestled near a pair of larger, previously known subglacial lakes. But how can these lakes exist beneath miles of ice? The average ice thickness in Antarctica is around 1.2 miles, but in some areas, it can exceed 1.8 miles, especially during the frigid winter months. It seems impossible for liquid water to persist under such immense pressure and cold. Yet, science reveals a different story. The ice, under its own immense weight, is in constant, slow motion, flowing in various directions. For years, the movement of water beneath the ice remained a mystery. But in 2007, data from IceSat provided a breakthrough, revealing a vast network of meltwater lakes interconnected beneath Antarctica's fast-flowing ice streams. Hundreds of these lakes were discovered. Helen Amanda Fricker, a glaciologist at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography, realized that the elevation changes measured by IceSat were linked to the dynamic behavior of these lakes. They weren't static pools of meltwater. Instead, they were continuously filling and draining through a complex system of waterways. As they filled and drained, the ice above rose and fell in response. Where does all this water go? Ultimately, it drains into the ocean, and it drains a lot. A study co-authored by Fricker revealed that the drainage of a single lake released a staggering 198 billion gallons of water into the ocean in just 3 days. The discovery of these two new lakes offers scientists a valuable window into the future. It provides a better understanding of how the Antarctic ice sheet will respond to a warming climate and how this, in turn, will impact global ocean currents and sea level rise. The cyclical filling and draining of these lakes also causes the ice sheet to develop cracks and crevices. By studying these new lakes, scientists can gain insights into the damage occurring on the ice surface. Furthermore, they can assess how this filling and draining system influences the speed at which ice slides into the oceans and seas, and how the influx of fresh water may alter delicate marine ecosystems. This discovery may even hold clues as to whether life exists beneath the ice. Intriguingly, scientists have drilled through approximately 354 feet of ice and found that water samples taken from one of the lakes contained roughly 10,000 bacterial cells per. Imagine, in the vast expanse of Antarctica, scientists are examining water samples, and what they're finding is astonishing. A single milliliter teems with thriving bacterial life, a vibrant ecosystem hidden beneath the ice. This abundance is a promising indicator, suggesting that these frigid waters might sustain even more complex life forms, perhaps microscopic animals. Could one of these newly discovered lakes be their hidden sanctuary? But the implications extend far beyond Antarctica. Scientists believe that studying these subglacial lakes could unlock secrets about the possibility of life on other planets. Picture the frozen surface of Mars. Could life exist beneath it, mirroring the patterns observed in Antarctica? There's a tantalizing possibility that these icy ecosystems hold critical clues about life that may have once flourished on the Red Planet. Visiting Antarctica in winter, however, is not for the faint of heart. Earth's lowest recorded temperature plunged to a bone-chilling 18 degrees Fahrenheit. And, incredibly, in 2010, an even more extreme temperature of 105 degrees was registered. Imagine the bite of that cold, intensified by the fierce, dry winds that sweep across the continent. The very landscape of Antarctica is in constant flux. The ice cover dramatically expands and contracts with the seasons. During the summer months, it spans approximately 1.2 million square miles. But as winter descends, it explodes to a staggering 7.3 million square miles. Yet, despite this seasonal change, Antarctica remains the undisputed heavyweight champion of ice on Earth. Sorry, Arctic, you just can't compete. And who are the true inhabitants of this icy realm? The adorable penguins, of course. These tuxedoed birds are the undisputed locals, considering that Antarctica has no native human population. It's a no-man's land, unclaimed by any single nation. But perhaps the real owners are the 5 different species of penguins, the sleek seals, and the majestic killer whales that call